Hello, hello, hello.
Hey guys.
Back, and we are black with a little bit of white today because we have finally got Sid, aka, like, whenever I see you, which is only at BravoCon, which has only been twice in person, I have to scream Gibsonoma because I don't know why your at is just so enticing for me.
Yep.
And you always get me like, who is this bitch? And I'm like, hey, it's Kaya from Bravo While Black. And you're always so nice. And you say hello. And we love you on Instagram. We love you on Threads now. And we have been waiting so long to get you on the podcast because you are so charming online. And then when you go and you watch your podcast interviews or your regular interviews with these Bravolebs, celebrities, reality stars, whatever you want to call them, you have a way of getting out tea without, like, trying to get out tea. You are also just hilarious. We just wanted to get to know you a little bit better. And we've been waiting for you to come on the pod for so long. We wanted it to be under the right circumstances. Like, we are on YouTube, you guys. We are, we got the sound going, we got everything going, and we're just excited to have you here. Just thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you for
having
me. Come on.
Oh my God, of course. That was one very nice intro. Thank you for that. And two, I know, I feel like we've been talking about this for like over a year trying to make this happen, but I'm glad that I'm coming on. Now that I'm fully caught up in Married to Medicine, like I've been binging Married to Medicine for the past 2 years. And so I feel very blessed to be like caught up on that show. And I feel like that's the perfect thing for us to talk about. So I'm just happy to be here. And again, thank you so much for that nice intro.
Of course. And you guys, if you see me scrambling at the end talking very fast, it's because I'm going to see the Renaissance movie. Because I already saw the tour in person.
I'm so jealous.
Same.
Tickets to go, and my black ass will not be late for that because I'm late for everything else.
No, you have your priorities straight. I support this.
Look at the shirt. Like, you have to be there on time. Yeah.
It's from
the
freaking Renaissance tour, you guys. So,
I love it.
Yeah. First of all, we just wanted to ask you, how did you get in the center of like reality meets pop culture meets interacting with these celebs? I know that you've worked for a publication, probably multiple at one time, but how did you get where you are? Yeah,
long story short, I was working right out of college for AOL, and I wound up on the entertainment team. And it was the kind of thing where it's like, I didn't really use AOL anymore, obviously. Like, I think it was kind of thought of as this brand that like was past its prime, but it still had such brand recognition. So it got good access to celebrities and things like that. And I was interviewing like regular celebrities, which was a dream come true. I was like 23 talking to these people, but I found that, and I was already watching Bravo. I've been watching Bravo since 2007, but I found that in the interviews, you have like a little bit of time with a celebrity, they're not going to really tell you anything, right? Like, they don't have to tell you anything. They have their PR trained, their media trained, they know what to tell you. But the reality star though, I was interviewing like a couple of them, and I was like, okay, I realized these people make a living off of sharing their life. And it was a much better interview, which resulted in a much better article, which resulted in much better engagement and pickup. So I just sort of started leaning into interviewing Bravo people. Like, I just sort of fell into it in that way. And then it kind of converged with the tweeting. Like, I was always tweeting and live tweeting, but it sort of at some point, I think, started helping, like they both started helping each other, right? Like, so the interviews were doing well because my Twitter was doing well and vice versa. And then during the pandemic, I just leaned into live tweeting, and that's when I really took off, honestly, because I had nothing else to do. So I would just watch Housewives every night and tweet too much. So that's sort of honestly where it was. Like, I just leaned into what I saw working and what I liked doing. And like, it's just been, knock on wood, working ever since.
That's amazing. And I want to know too, who was the first Bravo celebrity that you interviewed?
Who was the first Bravo celebrity I interviewed? That's a really good question. An early one was so around the time that I was starting to do that, there were a couple of shows and a couple of people that were starting. So Potomac was just starting. Summer House was just starting. Margaret Josephs had just joined New Jersey. Dallas was in its infancy. So those were a lot of the people that I was really kind of like cutting my teeth to. And like, they've always been appreciative of the fact that I gave them press back when, like, no shade, but like nobody really cared. You know, like early days of Summer House, nobody cared. Early days of Potomac, it wasn't getting the viewership that it is now. So a lot of those people were the people that were some of the earliest people. Like Margaret Josephs, I did a phone call with her before her first episode ever aired. I did a group phone call with Giselle, Ashley, and I want to say Charisse or something before their first season. Like, but back then nobody really knew who they were, right? And nobody knew who I was. So it was a good like way to get them exposure, but also help me practice doing these interviews.
That's amazing. And I can tell by the way that they interact with you that they like appreciate you for,
I hope so.
Like, you know, getting to know them before they blew up.
Yeah, that's what I try to do. Yeah, I'm not there to just like sort of tick off the boxes of like every headline you want to know about. I try to like get there sort of more organically through a conversation. That's what I've always tried to do.
So other than obviously, this is the Bravo episode, you guys. So the plan is we are asking Gibsonoma the questions that we always wanted to know, but we are also just going to get into specifically Married to Medicine because this deserves its own episode and we could not wait to keep with you. But before we get into that, right now, what are your top shows in general or reality shows, like your top 5?
Right now, let's see, on Bravo, I think my favorite ones right now are Salt Lake, Married to Medicine, and Miami. Even though Miami, I think it's not having like its best season, but I still find it really fun to watch every week. What else am I loving right now? I mean, the Kardashians just finished, and like I hate them or love them. Like I can't look away, and I love just like I watched that show almost just like excuse me. I watched the Kardashians show almost like studying and looking at it with a lens of like, what are they deciding to share with us and why? You know, so like, why are we seeing so much Tristan on the show this season? Why are they sort of they plant seeds? That's sort of what they do, like because they have control over what makes it onto that show. So I find that show fascinating, honestly, because they're just like such a force in culture. You know, it's hard to ignore them.
I literally have been watching the Hulu one because obviously I watched it when it was on E, but it was never really, I had to watch it that day or,
right.
You know, like it was just like, okay, these are the people that I have been, you know, brought up with. And so
it was like a habit more than like a must watch. Right.
I was with Caitlyn through the transition. Like I was with Kim through her divorce, through her multiple divorces, you know, and then when it came to Hulu, it's just become like background TV for me. And then what I love is I'm on East Coast, so a lot of people wait until 3 a.m. to put out their episodes. On Hulu, they come out right at 12. So I'm just in my bed waiting for my Xanax to kick in or my 7 melatonin.
That's your bedtime story.
Exactly. And I feel like they had such a strong start with season 1, and then season 2 was just one huge ad, and they heard us. So then season 3, we got a lot more from the main 3, obviously, because Kendall and Kylie is never going to show anything. Like we didn't even hear about. The only Travis that we heard about was Barker, and even Courtney was like, "Hi, yeah, I'm 6 months pregnant," basically. So
right. It really is the Kim and Chloe show if you really think about it.
Exactly, and now Chris.
Right, and Chris is very involved now. Yeah, but so, yeah, it's I think it's very, and yeah, the Kim and Courtney stuff is really I think what got that show back to where it should be. You know, right. Like they realize that we want that interpersonal drama. You know, I think
whose side were you on though?
Kim's. Very much on Kim's. Were you not?
I was on Courtney's because I feel
really.
I just feel like, okay, I understand that Kim started all of this, right? But she really wasn't fucking with Dolce and Gabbana as much as she was before. She was very much into Balenciaga. She was, I mean, they've always been there in the background, but it's just Kourtney finally decides to have a SponCon Dolce & Gabbana wedding, and then now Kim is like, okay, I want to go into the archives. So I'm just like, you kind of did steal her entire thing.
You have a point. I'm not going to argue with that, but I just think I get frustrated with Kourtney these days because I feel like she loves the word vibe, so I'm going to use her word. Mm-hmm. She just like is putting off, like, even though she's in this like happy marriage and she just had a baby and like there's all this good stuff happening in her life, she still just is putting out this really negative energy to me that I used to love her dry humor. I used to find her like hilarious, but now I just like find her to be just sort of like a energy suck. And I don't know, I feel like her and Kim are always going to be at odds in some capacity. Like they're kind of like oil and water sometimes. And I don't know, I just have more respect for Kim for like being more upfront and confrontational with it.
Well, yeah, when it comes to like the show, absolutely. But just the whole "you stole my wedding country" thing, I was just like, you weren't touching Dolce and Gabbana, babe. Like you were not interested in them, you know, until Kourtney was like, let me have my whole wedding there. And then she like talks shit about the whole wedding. And then all of a sudden you're going to the archives and you're doing these things that you weren't even interested in. And right. I do agree with you that Kourtney brings a certain je ne sais quoi, I hate my whole family to it. And, you know, that's fair. I feel like she's at the point where she just can't hide it now, but she's like, God, I have to do this fucking show. So right. I'm going to just suck it up and, you know, pretend that I could stomach them for more than an hour. It was like when this was the baby shower, well, the gender reveal episode. She tells them allegedly a day ahead of time, which I doubt it was a day ahead of time, but.
Right.
And it was just like, even looking at it on Instagram when it happened, I think it was that was April when it happened, May, something like that, earlier in the year when the actual gender reveal happened. I didn't see any like pictures of Kim, like, or Chloe really at all. And it was just her friends, you know, and that happened like, well, the pictures were uploaded right after they had that huge fight where Kim was telling Kourtney that all of her friends were talking shit about her to her. And I'm like, she really does not fuck with her sister. And I kind of get that, but Chris is like, you're going to film.
I get it. I just think that she wants it both ways sometimes. You know, I think that I don't think she likes it. I think that she doesn't gel well with like the machine of the show anymore and what her family has, the point that her family has gotten to. I think that she disagrees with a lot of it, but then she also wants that gender reveal on camera, and she wants it to be about her and not post her family. Like I don't like how she wants to have her cake and eat it too.
Do you think she wants a spin-off?
Probably. That's probably a good point. I've never heard that, but that's probably right.
I was like, when does Kourtney
ever
just want a wedding special just about her? Like, you know, there was Kourtney and Kim and Kourtney and Chloe, and that was just back in the glory days. But now that she's a little bit more mature, she's really fucking sick of them. She just wants to be with Travis all the time. But she's saying that she really doesn't want a lot of her life filmed, and then she comes out with an entire special. Right. Just is angling for a Kourtney like solo show.
Right. Yeah. I had Mariah Smith, who's like a huge Kardashians expert, on my podcast recently. And she talked about how, and I always forget this, and I think it's always a factor, actually. She brought this up, this point of like, Travis used to basically like be in love with Kim. And I think that's always in the back of Kourtney's mind. That's what Mariah was saying. And she very, very much convinced me. And I think that is making her a little bit self-conscious and thinking about this kind of in a different way than she's ever going to let on. You know, they have not addressed that really, but I think that's always kind of in the back of her mind. I do.
Yeah. Okay. And then you know what else is weird before I get to the last thing, because Aaron has not been watching the Kardashians. So
Yeah, but
I'm like, Aaron, fine, man. You're
I
not.
don't get this out because I never talk about it on
listen, this is great because Kaya loves the Kardashians. So
Oh,
I
okay.
just sit and I
I'm scratching
smile.
the itch for you. I'm scratching the itch. Okay, good.
Thank you. So, like, in addition to, Travis wrote in his book that he was basically in love with Kim. So that's where, like, we really, like, found that out or whatever. But I think it's so weird because she also has that element of her family won't let go of Scott either. And she's like...
Right.
And Scott is always just, even though it's in a joking manner, he's always hitting on Chloe, and they're always spending all this like solo time together. So it's like very, both of her.
Yeah, I think she's probably carrying some resentment for the Scott stuff. And if you noticed on this finale of this season, it opens with Scott's birthday dinner, and she's the only one not there. I'm pretty sure. So
yeah, exactly. And I just wonder like how the Christmas parties are when Scott's invited and then Travis is there and Courtney doesn't really want Scott there at all. But anyways, before we skip to your last reality show that you're living right now or regular show, my last Kardashian question is, who do you think was talking shit about Courtney to Kim in the group chat? No one, or...
I almost think it's everybody. You know what I mean? Like, I almost think it's anybody you might suspect was in that chat. But because they're all just going to deny it, they're all going to get off scot-free. That's kind of my hunch. Like, Kim's just not going to make that up. You know, that group chat, not Courtney, existed. I believe her. She doesn't. One thing about Kim, she's not going to like pull something like that out of her ass. Like that existed. And it sounded like to me she was implying that everybody who's close to Courtney was in that, like the friends, Chloe.
I don't know. I know that I 100% believe that the group chat exists because I definitely have different group chats for different people in my family. It's just not as savagely late. Well,
it is what it is, right?
But I just don't know if it's the close ones, like she said, or if it's just mainly the family. Like, my whole theory is it's just the sisters and the mom, probably.
I could see that. I could totally see that too. Yeah.
Okay, so then your last pick?
So it's actually the finales tonight, but I'm loving Golden Bachelor, and I am not a Bachelor person. I used to be very much ingrained in that, and like I used to love watching it sort of during that sort of second golden era of that show, but in the past like 3 years I've very much just like rejected it. I don't like it. But Golden Bachelor to me is very pure. It got back to like what the show is actually about. I cried every episode. Like these people's stories were so emotional, and like a lot of them had lost their spouses, and I just find it really endearing.
At the same time.
It's really fun, yeah. And like there's like been a tiny bit of drama, but like you roll your eyes at it because honestly, I actually genuinely like watching how much the women like support one another and like they cheer on when they kiss him, and like it just I found it to be like a very successful experiment for that franchise.
It was something that we needed, something wholesome, something that I feel like he is going to find real love. This isn't about Instagram followers. This isn't about who's going to, but at the same time, I feel like I won't be satisfied unless they actually do get married. I know. I need a wedding, and I need a wedding special, because it's just like, what are we here for if they're not actually going to be together forever? Not an engagement, and they have a contract, and they get a house, and they get the down payment on the house, and they break up in a year. Like, no, I want you guys to get married legally because I'm too invested in this. And you know what? I saw that article about Gary.
I did too.
A fuckboy, but I didn't read it because I just don't need that negativity. I don't want to hear about a 72-year-old man being a fuckboy. Like, I'm already dealing with that in real life. Like, I can't, especially before the finale. Like, I can't do this. So
yeah, I read that article. I read it. It was, long story short, I thought that the framing of it being this like big takedown piece about Gary was really misleading. It's basically just about, it sounds like he maybe treated this woman not the best. Like there was a couple comments that he made and things like that, but like ultimately there was nothing that was like takedown worthy, or like it was like his not so golden past. It was all just centered on this one relationship that was like, that we never heard about on the show. And it's like, okay, like that, we heard this woman's story and it's very valid, but like, it just was very dramatic in its presentation, I thought.
So it was giving the big takedown article for Bravo, but that's another story.
That part. Yeah.
Anyways, so Aaron, I know that you probably wanted to ask
Let's make it a three-way
about his new podcast.
Yes. Tell us about the new podcast.
Yeah, it's called Gabbing with Gib. And basically just like some stuff changed at work and I wanted to take my own destiny into my own hands. So I created it this fall, and it's 2 episodes a week. The first is an interview like we talked about at the top of the show. It's mostly Bravo people. I've had Larsa, Dr. Heavenly, Jordan from Winter House. Tomorrow is Julia from Miami, Leva from Southern Charm. I try to do a big sampling of the shows. And so that's Tuesday. And then Fridays I have people on, and we'll have to have you guys on at some point to do some sort of like pop culture discussion. It's usually about a specific thing. It's not a recap show, because I think a lot of people do that really well. And so, you know, we've had an episode about the Kardashians, an episode about all the sort of younger Bravo shows like Southern Charm and Summer House and Vanderpump Rules. I had Danny Pellegrino on, and we just talked about like every single Housewives franchise really quickly. So it's really fun. And like, I'm trying to experiment with different formats and things, but it's totally independent. I'm having a great time doing it. And thanks for asking about it.
Can you actually do me a favor too? I want to know, can you ask Julie about her farm?
Well, I already recorded that. It's on tomorrow, but what do you want to know about
Okay.
I'm curious. But what would you want to know about it?
What other animals does she have? Because I think we just seen, was it goats?
Goats, and then also the chickens, because she always brings eggs wherever she goes. Remember that. Yeah. So Julia is interesting.
Your dream guest is?
My dream guest is probably Andy, because I feel like Andy. He just did a Today Show profile with Evan Ross Katz, and it sounds like when you interview him, you can basically ask him anything. There's nothing off the table, because he's obviously very media trained. He knows how to skirt questions and give you an answer, like a non-answer. But I think that'd be kind of like an interesting challenge. You know, he's on the other side of things as well as on camera. So like he knows how to kind of work those interview situations. And I think I'd want to get some tea out of him somehow, but like, I think it's hard to get some stuff out of him.
I feel
hope
like
so.
It'll be you guys having a chat. And in that, he's going to see that your podcast isn't necessarily a gossip podcast. This isn't necessarily a recap podcast. It's more of a conversation.
Yeah.
And in that, you're going to find some comfortability. And whenever you find comfortability with someone, you end up just telling them like your life story. So I am totally here for that, especially because you have been so instrumental in the Bravoverse, like not just online, but like I feel like some interviews that you do, like that it comes up on the show. Maybe it's a topic on Watch What Happens Live. So I'm gunning for you to have Andy, and then when you have him, send him our way.
Please.
Perfect. It could be a 2-for-1, 2-for-1 special.
So is there anything else that you are doing that you would like to bring up? Like, is there going to be merch? Is there going to be like a companion? I don't know, like anything else that you want to?
No, I think I just launched it a month ago. So I'm just kind of honestly trying to like get it on solid footing and get everybody from my old who subscribed to my old podcast that was through my job to come to this new one and know that this is where I'm doing all my Bravo stuff now, all my reality TV stuff now. And we have a TikTok page, we have an Instagram page, I have a newsletter where I promote it. So like just anybody who's listening or watching to this, like go check it out. And I try to have a way in for everybody, right? So even if you don't even watch Bravo, go listen to the Kardashian one, go listen to the Taylor Swift one. Go listen to the BravoCon recap even. Like I try to have a way in for everybody. So if you only watch Winter House and those kind of shows, go watch that. I have Married to Medicine people on. I actually just recorded with Sweet Tea. So that was actually a pretty good one. And then I actually have Dr. Simone on. So like I get people that I hope can, again, everyone has a way in, you know, and that's my goal, I think, for Gabbing with Gib.
You got the people.
Yeah, like you are part of, what do they say on Potomac all the time? The blogs, I feel. Yeah, everyone. Okay, this is not just your run-of-the-mill, we're going to have, this housewife on. Like, you really appreciate all of these women who put so much time in on these shows. And even, Southern hospitality people, family karma people. Like, that's how we are. Like, we treat these shows with the same respect. Obviously, housewives, housewives, but at the end of the day, like, we're watching all of them. So at the end of the day, y'all have us tuned in. And you just made the perfect segue into what we have called you to the table about, which is Married to Medicine.
Married to Medicine.
Aaron, where do you want to start off? Do we want to start off with the ending of the last episode, which is when Quad came in the beginning of this episode, and we just give our thoughts about everything?
First, I want to ask Gibson too. Like, how do you feel about this season's cast now that they've added Phaedra and we have Sweet Tea and we have
Dr. Alicia too?
Yes, Dr. Alicia.
Yeah. Dr. Alicia, I feel like we haven't been exposed to enough to really get on her. At least for me, that's how I feel. She's gorgeous, but I feel like we don't know that much about her yet. I feel like Phaedra has brought something to the show, but I still need her to like sink her teeth more into it. And I think that I hope that we'll see more of that. It's funny how like we haven't even heard like since the first episode anything about her supposed doctor boyfriend that got emojis on his face. Like that's kind of makes me laugh, honestly. But and then Sweet Tea, I think I actually really like Sweet Tea. I think she kind of came in to like an impossible situation. She came in as Dr. Greg's new fiance, and we've all had 10 seasons of buildup of like loyalty to Quad, and I'm a Quad girl, so I'm like I even have like a little I feel like we're all kind of protective of what this was going to be, but I thought she makes me laugh. I don't know, sometimes intentionally, sometimes unintentionally, but I really like this cast, and obviously I love that we have so many OGs and essential OGs and Heavenly. Like, I don't know, that I like the constant of Married to Medicine. That's what I like about it.
I feel the exact same way.
Yeah.
Especially about Sweet Tea. It's like I'm still filling her out. But it's like every episode I'm like, I don't hate her.
Yeah, so I know. I don't hate her. I do not hate her. Yeah. I feel like, again, I think we were kind of set up to try to want to hate her, but I don't feel that way about her. I genuinely don't.
Okay, how do you feel about this cast?
I love this cast. I don't hate Sweet Tea at all. I don't like her necessarily, but I don't hate her. And I will say that Phaedra has brought a certain shady, like, great bridge between Quad and the other ladies. Because originally I was like, okay, how is this going to work? And especially when they were talking about how Quad really doesn't want to fuck with the other ladies, and we didn't know if Quad was coming back in that whole situation, and we see it kind of like play out on camera also. But Sweet Tea brings, she's raw, she's real, she is not media trained, she's not reality TV trained, and she's not ready for what she is in. So that's what makes her so entertaining to watch. So I won't say that I like or dislike her, but I will say that she has brought so much to this show that I can't look away. That's how I feel. It's like,
that's such a great media training.
Yeah.
Please shut up, but also please keep talking.
Right, exactly. Say more. Give us more mess.
Exactly. Like, she's in an impossible situation, but at the same time, she's saying that she didn't watch the show, that she was in a group for older men, dating older men, and that's how she got referred to Dr. Greg. when we clearly saw that she was a fan of Quad. When Quad, and that's kind of why I don't dislike her, because she's been straight up a fan. When Quad entered her bachelorette party, any other human being on the face of the planet would flip the fuck out or tell her to get the fuck out. She comes in, Sweet Tea is like, Quad, sit here.
Same.
That's a fan. Can you blame her?
Yeah.
Okay. So can I tell you? I asked her about that. Can I tell you what she said?
Yes, please.
So I was like,
what did she say?
yeah. So I was like, because the one thing I was annoyed about this season so far is that we got so many teasers and trailers about the bachelorette party, Quad and Phaedra walking in, and they showed Sweet Tea having this like meltdown. We all thought it was about Quad walking in, and then it ended up being about something with her sister that I didn't totally I don't even remember what it was, but it's inconsequential. But so I was really impressed with your reaction to Quad coming in. Like, you had just freaked out about something else, and she was like, you know, my friend had just been in my ear, like, you can't do that again, basically. So I think that in that moment, she didn't want to give them the reaction they wanted. That's what she said. Yeah. But also, like, her friend had just said in her ear, like, no, you can't do that again. Like, we can't do it in one night, basically.
That's understandable.
So, and if you want to believe that, yeah, you know, you can or you won't. But that's what she said when I just talked to her like an hour ago.
I can see that.
You are.
Oh my God, it's like an hour ago?
Yeah.
Come on.
6 p.m.
This episode is going to come out on Saturday.
Okay.
So,
and this is Thursday.
Anything else that you said or that you talked about that was interesting? Because people are going to listen to yours first because it comes out on Friday.
No. So tomorrow's my Julia episode. So this won't. I don't think Married to Medicine comes out for another week, actually, because I'm combining her with Simone. So but I can talk about it. It's my own thing, so I can talk about it.
Okay, just give us a little bit more, not everything, but just so people know to go on over there.
Yeah, it sounded to me like, you know, because I was really curious what her expectation was coming into the situation, because it's like she was mad about Quad being brought up at the engagement party, and you know, it's like, but it's sort of like what you expect coming into a group and a show that she's been on for 10 years. You know, I was sort of like, what was your expectation? And it sounds like Heavenly was the one who reached out to her to bring her onto the show and really butter her up, and she felt really safe with Heavenly, and you know, they went on a walk together and all these things. And then I think immediately when the cameras went up, Heavenly switched it up on her, you know, and now Heavenly's going like she's tweeting so much. She's doing all the YouTube, all that stuff. And like, I think she told me she's hurt by it. She's like, I feel like hoodwinked, basically. And it was interesting hearing that, you know, because and I think the one thing that I feel like we all know about Heavenly is like, she does all this because she knows it benefits the show. You know, she can't help herself, but she also knows that like tweeting it and doing all this shady stuff on YouTube and like doing the impersonation, all that stuff, like she knows that just drums up more talk and thus more viewers and all these things. And I think that, as you said, I don't think Sweet Tea knew what she was really getting into in that capacity. And so I have a sympathy for her, you know, like I'm sort of like, you know, she seems like a good person, and I think that she's a little bit in over her head. I hope that she stays afloat, because I think she's compelling to me. But that's sort of my big takeaway from how she's feeling right now.
And I believe that because Dr. Heavenly is everywhere talking about.
It's a mess. Because she just had her too on her show when they were doing the whole business thing. And I think that's when she was introducing, I want to say either her teas or like something herbal that she has coming out. And it seemed like they were, it seemed like they were friends. And then now I'm just like, ugh. But
then you watch what happens live, and her and Quad are like, the money. And
the impersonation is tough.
The impersonation is tough, but on point because it came from Heavenly. And Heavenly, like she even said on Watch What Happens Live, she has no regret, like, of how she acts. And that was my big thing, Aaron, last season. I was like, I could not be friends with Heavenly. And you were like, no, she apologized. So
she does apologize, though.
But she
I think
doesn't
Heavenly
mean it.
looks out for your best interest, though, because at the same time, it's like she's doing all this stuff, but she's setting her up for another season. Because
So
we
she's
kind of want to
like-
see her
like-
back. Like,
She's basically like the Giselle that, like,
right.
I'm gonna throw you under the bus, but you need to understand that I'm throwing you a bone.
I totally agree. I totally agree with what you're saying. But I think the issue in this exact situation is like, I think anybody else who's been around for 9 or 10 years, like Heavenly has, would pick up on that, right? Like they know that's how she is. They know that, but Sweet Tea is so new and so green that like she is not seeing it that way, and like it has to go unspoken from Heavenly. It's like she's doing this, and you have to get the subtext, but Sweet Tea isn't getting the subtext.
I want to say we talked about this because this conversation was familiar with OC, kind of like what Tamra was doing with the other ladies.
Totally.
Like, talking shit about them and dragging them.
Like Jen.
Yeah, with that whole thing.
It's like Heavenly.
So I think that's what she's trying to do.
I think you're right.
I hope so, at least. Do you think that Sweet Tea and Quad can eventually maybe build a friendship?
It doesn't. I didn't really. Whenever I brought up Quad, it didn't seem like she wanted to talk about it. I mean, like we talked about her. We talked about her though, but she was referring to her mostly as his ex-wife. She wasn't. She was. I think she was. It was clear to me she wasn't trying. She was trying not to say her name. Yeah. I don't know. I think that it would be beneficial to both of them to do that. Again, thinking about the future, it's like if you can come to some sort of truce at the reunion, set it up for some comeback season as a friendship next year. What I would really like to see is a comeback friendship for Quad and Mariah, but that's a whole other topic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think that Heavenly's doing the dirty work for sure. I don't think Quad's doing the dirty work.
Exactly. Yeah. Quad is not doing the dirty work, and it's like everyone expected Quad to be so bitter and freak out, just like in that same sense of her showing up to the bachelorette party. Everyone expected Quad to just kind of like shun, not film, be disgusted by everything. When it's like Dr. Heavenly brought this girl on the show, but which was kind of like a strike to Quad, but then she also kind of set this girl up, which was a strike to Sweet Tea. And it seems that Sweet Tea is genuinely, like they call her Sweet Tea because she just seems like a nice person. Like she genuinely just seems nice. She seems innocent. She's kind of like season 1 Whitney Rose, I feel.
I can see
that kind of a vibe. But
I see it.
As far as the show, we ended with obviously Quad coming to the bachelorette party. Toya was more concerned than anyone because Sweet Tea invited her over to take a seat and, have a good time. But Toya was like, absolutely the fuck not. And, Quad leaves with Phaedra. This one, it opens and they go over to Dr. Jackie and Dr. Heavenly go over to Phaedra's house to discuss the events of the bachelorette party. And basically they asked Phaedra, why the hell would you do that? And Phaedra was saying, without saying, y'all thought that she wasn't going to film this season. There she is. And it was just like a very, I don't know, like it really made me feel like it doesn't matter if I'm not seeing Phaedra's cardiologist. I just want her to continue to bring the mess.
Yeah, I'm grateful for that.
Because she's bringing something to the show. Like, I think she naturally fits in. She's a great addition. She made a smooth transition. Right. And I can't say the same about a lot of the housewives. I think even with Taylor, when Taylor had kind of came to OC, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. Even though I liked her, I did like her, but it was still like I wasn't too sure.
So how do y'all feel? Hold on. How do y'all feel about her not coming back to OC?
What do you go first? What do you think?
Oh, I was gonna say, like, it's sad because I did grow to like her.
Yeah, I didn't dislike. I was kind of indifferent to her as a friend on OC. Like she did fit in with the group, and I think that she was a fine presence. But like, I was not upset that she's not coming back. To me, it's like we had that one thing with her and Heather over the IMDb stuff, and then it's sort of like, and then she really just showed us like kind of like more like weird, quirky vibes, which like I appreciated, but I kind of shrugged. You know, it was a nice experiment. Yeah, I agree. Like, the Phaedra experiment is working much better.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So then we obviously are preparing for the wedding. The wedding comes. Dr. Heavenly is not on the list, and it's Toya's birthday. We know on the outside that there's like a little story that I guess I will get into, but on the show, tell them what happens, Aaron.
On the show, Heavenly's not on the list. Toya then laughs and pretends to be concerned. And I also thought that was very funny. She's like, "You're not on the list?" And she kept giggling. So what happened was, I think that morning they said Sweet Tea took her off the list and talked to the wedding planner. And then Heavenly went behind the scenes and somehow got in while they were doing the vows. So I thought that was impossible. I'm like, how did she do this? And why was she so determined to be in this wedding? But then once I seen her perspective, she's like, I'm just showing up to work. I'm like, right. You know, that makes sense.
And then we find out outside of it, well, on Watch What Happens Live, she basically says that, you know, Phaedra got her in. But then I had heard that the real tea was Phaedra knew the pastor, and she was like, Heavenly needs to come in. So Phaedra kind of already pulled her dick out and was like, Dr. Heavenly is producing a show. She's going to come to this wedding.
Absolutely.
How do you feel about
I thought
wedding guest stuff?
So the Toya reaction was really sending me. Like, I thought she was sort of like keeping a straight face and concerned. And then when she walked right past, it was like one of those moments. I loved it. No, it's like, yeah, because you're right. Like, there was clearly some sort of string pulled behind the scenes, because like otherwise we would have seen footage of like Heaven like running in, you know what I mean? Like past security, you know, like taking off the heels and sprinting. So clearly, like, yeah, she was led in by somebody, but I thought it was hilarious. I thought that, like, I'm glad she didn't just walk away, you know?
Right. Because that's what they were saying. They're like, we're not going to argue about it. And especially with Dr. Damon, he's the calm one. So he would probably just be like, okay, we're going. But Heavenly is like, no, we're going in there. So it was just so crazy to see.
I guess there was a moment that we didn't see where like Sweet Tea was waiting to go into the in for the ceremony, like with her dad, and Heavenly and Damon were sitting outside, and she was like, "What are you doing here?" Like blah 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 blah. And she said, this is what she told me in my interview with her. And she said that that was sort of the first time her dad was seeing her act in like the on camera way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he was like, "What are you talking about?" She was like, "I'm gonna." So there was a lot of things, I think, in the way that she got in that we did not see. There are several, I think, interactions which I would love to hear about. I would love to hear about. That's like
caravan footage, I feel.
Totally. And there was some self-shot footage, right, that Heavenly had, I think, like, why are we not on the list? And then it cuts to the camera footage. But so I wish Heavenly had just had like a GoPro on.
Exactly. She couldn't, but you know what? They would have cut out the producers coming, because it was, let's just stop. It's the producers. The producers and Phaedra was like, okay, Sweet Tea, we know this is your wedding, but we got a show to put on. And Dr.
Totally
is coming into the
show. Did laugh at that Beef Wellington confessional that Sweet Tea did. Like, that was hilarious. She was like, "You're gonna eat this Beef Wellington before I put my foot in your ass." I love that.
No, that's definitely.
She is funny. I'm sorry. She is really funny, I think. She really is.
Intentionally and unintentionally, I feel.
Right, exactly. Which we love. Like, some of my favorite housewives are funny intentionally and unintentionally, you know? That's Dorit, that's Lisa Barlow, that's a common trait that I love.
Definitely. Aaron, the episode ends on kind of what? Like,
them dancing.
Yeah, them dancing, like everything was
But Heavenly comes up to Letitia, remember? she comes up to her during the dance and Sweet Tea is like, yeah, go away, basically. So Heavenly was trying to have a moment at the reception as well.
I'm like, that happened?
Yeah, at the end, because remember, Sweet Tea tells Heavenly, she's like, I'm mad at you. And she's like, this is beautiful.
Oh, yes.
Heavenly is so phony sometimes. I love it. It's just like, I love watching her, but I could never be her friend. And I think I put that on Threads one day. But yeah, it ends on a happy note. Like, it was a beautiful wedding. Sweet Tea looked beautiful. Everything was carried out amazing. Meanwhile, if you guys know where Quad was taking a luxurious bubble bath.
Love that scene too. I thought it was very important.
And like the production quality was different. It was kind of giving Peacock production quality, and it was like, you know, blurred edges and
I could see every strand of her hair, and that's why I was like, is this Peacock?
Literally. No, it was so good. I was like, you're right. This was very important. Very important. One of the best Bravo scenes of the year, in my opinion.
And she was just so unbothered, because at the end of the day, obviously, we already have been comparing not only Sweet Tea's personality, but like her goals in the marriage, the money, and also just the way that she's unbothered by this, because everyone kept saying, oh, you know, Quad needed to do X, Y, and Z to keep that man. She needed to have a baby. She needed to do this. She needed to do that. But honestly, Dr. Greg was not a loss, because we hear a lot about this in the coming episodes, and even in the past episodes, that Dr. G was very controlling. And we do not know how he acts behind the scenes. And I think maybe during this season, we might get a peek at more of Dr. G's personality that might not be meshing well with Miss Sweet Tea.
Her marriage.
In Garcelle's voice.
Right, exactly. Really? Erica voice. No, but I agree. Like, I think I'm curious if, like, again, as Quad, I think it's more ingrained into this season. I'm curious if we're going to hear more from her perspective and her experience with Dr. G, because I feel like we've obviously gotten that over the years, but I think to have a direct comparison now, you know, and to be like, oh, is this what Sweet Tea is going through potentially? It'd be interesting to hear her perspective now that we have this sort of like, okay, this is the new relationship he's in. You know, we know his new wife. So I agree, that'd be really interesting.
So it's been a great first few episodes, extremely strong. Like, keep coming back every week for more, and we might have you on at the end of the season if you don't mind, because
I'll come back whenever you guys want.
Perfect, because if you guys don't already know, like, Gibsonoma is just like Steve, aka Faces by Bravo. Like, there are some people like Kendrick, like, you know, Tyria, like, we hold Married to Medicine in the same regard as we hold Housewives, because look at the cast, it's the same people.
They're literally in Atlanta. They're the same people.
And like the same people. So we will definitely have you back. We'll be chatting more Married to Medicine, and probably only Married to Medicine and Potomac very soon, because we have a lot to say with Potomac. It's just I don't get into that voodoo stuff. Like, I don't want to talk about it.
No. I want to touch on football. No, exactly.
Exactly. But I think we're going to leave with a pot stir, and I want to know the same messy ass pot stir that Andy asked on Watch What Happens Live. Do we think that Sweet Tea and Dr. G are going to last? If so, how long? You are the guest. You have to go first.
He's like, I just did this interview at 6 o'clock.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a politically correct answer. I think that what I'll say is, I think that when you ask a question like that, or when you're in the relationship, I think with like Sweet Tea and Dr. G, now that they've put this on TV, it's all, I feel like that factor of like people, because they know people are rooting for them to fail, right? So I think that factor actually goes into them trying to make it work for a longer time. So, you know, I don't feel like I know the relationship well enough to even like make that call, but for her sake, I hope so. I don't really have anything in the game for Dr. G, but because I'm Team Quad in that. But like, again, Sweet Tea seems like a really good person, and she's in love with Dr. G. And if she wants this relationship, I'd like for it to last. I'll just say that.
Perfect. Aaron?
I'd say the same thing.
No,
I'd say the exact same thing.
Okay.
I like to see it last because he seems happy.
Yeah.
And how long do you think that you'd like to see it last for?
Forever.
And how long? Okay, so then
Everlasting love.
Everlasting.
Do you think it's gonna last forever?
Well, there is some point where we all die, so
So
I don't
you
think
they're in it
forever.
for the long run?
Yeah, I could say that.
Well,
What do you
thank
think?
you so much for joining us on.
What do you think?
Like don't try to do that.
Okay, I'm gonna be straight up. Just like Dr. Heavenly and Quad thinks, if she gets pregnant, it's gonna last a very long time. I'm sure that they are working on it right now. But if she don't get pregnant, she's gonna see that he has some ways about him that Quad was right about. And you know what? That's when we might get that friendship and that team up. So be that as it may.
I'd like to see it. I'd like to see them. But I would also like them to have a baby. So you know what?
Right.
We'll see what happens.
It all depends on what's going on. But I just want to make it clear that we like Sweet Tea over here, and we love Claude over here, and we love Married to Medicine even more, and we love you for joining us. So we will be talking to you very soon, everyone. Stream his podcast, stream our podcast. Hit us up on Threads on Instagram. Not on the other website, but log on to our Patreon, patreon.com/Bravolebs. And just thank you again for joining us. Everyone rate us 5 stars. Please come back. We love you so much. And we will talk to you on Wednesday for the pop culture episode. Bye.
A Hurrdat Media Production.